I've spoken on Don't Talk TV a number of times about the importance of culture, and my view that some quick lawsuit or an election result isn't going to quickly turn things around or change things in a big way, but culture needs to come first. So in my last video from Poland, I thought I'd talk a bit more about that based on my experience here over staying here for about a month. Hello, my name is Nicholas Wansbutter. I'm a lawyer from Stratford, Ontario, Canada, and welcome to Don't Talk TV, our fourth and final edition from Poland. So as I mentioned, I've been here for a little over a month, most of that time spent in Krakow with side trips to numerous other locations. I've had a chance to meet with a wide variety of people and a lot of family, get some information on what's really happening in this country, as well as looking at the history, enjoying the history, praying in gorgeous, beautiful churches that don't exist in Canada and never have and probably never will. So that all puts me in mind of the comments I've made, as I said in the preamble, about culture, the preeminence of culture and how politics come downstream from culture and the law comes from the politics. And the culture also directly influences the law as well, I think. And Poland certainly puts me in mind of that. When I consider, first and foremost, how did Poland react to COVID-19, or how have the laws played out in Poland? So they did have lockdowns, they had mask mandates, a number of people got tickets, as in Canada, for things like being out when they weren't supposed to be, not wearing a mask where they're supposed to wear a mask, doing non-essential shopping. However, two huge differences between Poland and Canada. First is Poland's lockdowns and strict laws only lasted for about 6 months, versus Canada, they lasted for over 2 years, and really only the Freedom Convoy put an end to that. Secondly, and I've confirmed this from a number of independent sources, although given my lack of control of the Polish language, I'm not able to confirm this through legal documents. Every single ticket has been thrown out of court when people have challenged them in court. Now, we know that is certainly not the case in Canada. In fact, shortly before I left for Poland, the Ontario Court of Appeal ruled upholding the decision of the Ontario Superior Court in the Trinity Bible Chapel versus Ontario case, where, as people may know, the Trinity Bible Chapel and the Church of God in Aylmer received hundreds of thousands of dollars of fines for the quote-unquote crime of having religious services during COVID. So complete opposite results. Now, are those opposite results because Poland has some super special constitution or some thing in their laws that made a big difference? I don't believe they did. From what I know of Polish law and from what I've been able to see, relying on translations, of course, there's nothing particularly out of the ordinary about Poland's constitution or their laws, and I haven't been able to find any specific laws prohibiting forced vaccination or prohibiting non-consensual medical practices. In fact, vaccination is mandatory in Poland for infants, although there are ways around that. Don't have time to get into the specifics of that, but that is actually a law, which is not a law anywhere in Canada. And also Canada has that common law tradition that should have protected Canada, one would have thought, more than Poland's civil law tradition. Yet we have the drastically different results that we have. In my view, courts haven't been following the law as clearly laid down in Canada, but then again, they've been siding with the people in Poland. So why is that? I believe that's culture. Now, just another thing that can comment, you can probably hear all the music going on behind me. Of course, the timing worked out. I've been wondering when this parade was going to start, and of course it started just as I started filming. The President of Poland, Andrzej Duda, is actually here for some special occasion. There's a number of soldiers out here, and I found it interesting. There aren't any snipers on the rooftops here, as when the Prime Minister of Canada goes anywhere. There are soldiers and police presence, but not as aggressive or intense as in Canada. Tourists and Polish people were able to walk freely through police lines at one point, which I don't think would have ever happened in Canada. And again, I believe this is all coming back to culture, not to any specific laws on the books. Because whether you have a democracy or even a dictatorship or a monarchy, in a large portion of cases, the law and the way it's enforced will be in conformity with the general will of the people. If the people won't tolerate something, the law won't be implemented in that way. And I think that's especially obvious now in this time of globalism. You can see so many similarities between Poland and Canada, yet also so many differences, because the Polish people would not tolerate the same level of globalism that Canadians tolerate, and the Canadians are fine with. And although it may be comforting to think that elections are rigged or that our government is just doing things totally contrary to what the people believe, I think that the truth is that the vast majority of Canadians are in full agreement with everything that's happened in Canada in the last several years, and they're in agreement with the things that are going forward. Polish people aren't, so that's why things need to happen differently here and at a different speed. Now, what is it about Polish culture? I think number one is the number one thing I've talked about on Don't Talk TV when I've given in a few episodes, including episode 150, my thoughts on how we change things, how we get out of the situation that people are, certainly viewers of Don't Talk TV, are unhappy with in Canada, and that is getting back to God, or being with God in the first place, prayer. I talked about the churches that you see in Canada that have never existed in Canada, because Canada has never had the level of faith that the Polish people have had. They've never had the Catholic faith that the Polish people have. And they also, as a result, haven't had the tumultuous history. I think Canada has really had too much peace. And that's another reason. In a way, victory has defeated Canadians, whereas Poland, they've had to struggle, and I think a lot of that struggle is because they're Catholic. That's a hallmark of Catholic history, is that Catholics are always under attack and under persecution more than many other groups. So now, that said, Poland is in grave danger of losing that, because although far more people go to church here, far more people pray here than in Canada, you can see that it's starting to be a waning practice. And that's not within the purview of Don't Talk TV to discuss why I think that is, but it goes back to what I've said, and I think really 10 minutes of prayer per day is going to accomplish way more than any number of petitions or protesting or putting X's on a ballot once every 4 years, or however often our government decides to give us that opportunity to vote, which, again, we could get into more of a discussion of that. I mentioned this a bit in my episode honoring the life and death of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, and the fact that democracy doesn't, I don't think that our elections are rigged in terms of votes being doctored, but there is a screening process of who you even get to vote for in the first place, who ends up on the ballot, and then there's all the media and how strong that influence is and how that shapes people's voting. But again, that's culture, and that it's a long and difficult road to take. It's not easy, like Xing a ballot or doing a quick lawsuit, but that's what's going to get the results. And that is why Poland is where it is now, but it's also why Poland's in danger, because as they're moving away from that culture that has given them what they have, they'll start becoming more like Canada. And in my view, they need to go back to their past. Canada needs to go back to a direction like what I see here. So that's about all the time I have to wax philosophical about these things. I hope you've enjoyed these videos from Poland. Next week we'll be back into more of Don't Talk TV's regular fare. We'll certainly be covering C11 in the near future and some of the other interesting legal things that have happened in Canada while I've been away. This video, of course, is not legal advice. If you need legal advice, call a lawyer. You can call another lawyer or myself. Again, I'll be in Canada by the time you're viewing this video, so my phone number and website are listed below. If there's show topics you'd like to see me cover, please leave a comment in the comment section or send an email to the email address listed below. And if you found this video at all interesting, helpful, or informative, please consider liking, sharing, subscribing, and following us on social media.